UBI, or Universal Basic Income. Sooner or later, it will come in. It's only really, I think, a matter of time. Lots of countries have done experiments. We saw that during the pandemic, almost in many cases, it was practically a UBI scheme, and has shown that, yes, UBIs can actually work quite effectively. Now, at this moment in time, no country has implemented UBI, at least as far as I'm aware. There might be programs, or like maybe certain people have access to UBI. I know in Wales at the moment, they are doing a pilot study for at least the next couple of years, which again will be very interesting to see and keep an eye on. We already did a video about it when it was launched, of foster care kids who, when they turn 18 up until they are 21, 22, I think. Can't remember exactly now. But they will receive UBI. And that will be very interesting to see how they respond. What outcomes does this have for them? And during that time, I think for them, if they want to go to maybe university, that UBI will help cover a lot of their cost of living stuff and things like that. I think we'll see, maybe we might see an increase of these kids not only go to university, but do well at university. That will be a good outcome. We may see some of these kids maybe go and start their own businesses. One of the interesting things about UBI, and especially in a lot of the studies about UBI, is that you have seen people go, because they've had that level of financial stability, go on to go and create their own businesses in all kinds of different areas and sectors and stuff like that. So that again would be very fascinating to sort of see and do. But today we have, well, an interesting situation here, because I am a big proponent of UBI. I would love to see UBI implemented. But here, what we have are British farmers asking for, well, they're asking for basic income, but really what they're asking for is UBI. And why are they asking for this? They want this to help them cope with their new post-Brexit struggles. So, do I want this type of UBI to be implemented for the farmers? It's honestly, I'm really 50-50. I am really 50-50 on this. But I can see the good advantages, and of course, this leading to more arguments for more of a rollout of UBI and other various things that you can sort of do and connect around UBI. One of the things I would also massively advocate for is a unemployment insurance. I think a government-backed unemployment insurance would be fantastic, because it would mean that a lot of people who lose their jobs don't then have to go on to things like benefits, because they are sort of receiving that. Now, they may end up on benefits, but during that, they won't be sort of, fully on benefits. And I think Sweden is a perfect example of a country that has that. But again, something we can, copy and paste, or well, maybe not copy and paste, but we can look at it, we can copy it. There's all sorts of stuff we could do. And of course, we talked about yesterday about the whole progressive opportunities that could come about if we really go and defeat the Tories quite significantly. But we're going to have a look at this today, because I think this, honestly, is a conversation worth having. I think it is a conversation worth having about who should have access to UBI and what the benefits are of these types of people having access to UBI. So if we give UBI to British farmers, how is this going to affect them? And I think this is initially asking those questions about what the benefits for them are going to be, and not only potentially the benefits for them, but wider ramifications of doing that as well. So, interesting questions to ask today. I would love to hear what you think about this in the comments below. So, As always, thank you very much to all those people who do help and support the channel. Like I say, there's links down below. The Patreon page, the Buy Me Coffee link, the YouTube thank you button, the Pony Club, of course, all down below. And of course, you can click the like, you can click the share. If you are new, click the subscribe button. And of course, let's crack on with today's story. So this comes from The Guardian with the title of British Farmers Want Basic Income to Cope with the Post-Brexit Struggles. So farmers are now calling for the government to grant them a universal basic income, saying that the post-Brexit agricultural subsidy scheme has now left many poorer. Of course, we'll leave the EU, we'll leave the common agricultural policy, and we'll replace it with something absolutely amazing. And of course, to quote Boris Johnson, world beating, has been anything but. And farmers are furious about this. So delays to the sustainable farming schemes put in place after the UK left the European Union to replace the common agricultural policy have meant that many England farmers now have been left completely out of pocket. The new regime initially suffered from very low subscription rates, and the government has now underspent hundreds of millions of pounds from £2.4 billion worth of its farming budget each year due to a lack of sign-up, because many farmers didn't understand it. They had no idea what exactly it was. And some farmers, when they looked to those requirements, hill farmers we talked about just recently, were like, we can't do any of that because we're hill farmers. We don't really have the correct, land type or environment to really do what you're asking us to do on this. So it's not surprising. Scotland and Wales have also now have very own different farming schemes. Northern Ireland has not yet signed up to a new scheme due to Stormont not having sat for 2 years. Again, this is why Stormont and it not being active has been very bad for Northern Ireland. We've talked about that plenty in the past. In Wales, there now have been protests over the plans to ask farmers to set aside at least 20% of their farms for nature and tree planting. The government projections and independent analysis have shown that the new nature payment schemes will not plug the gap left by the lack of EU subsidies for most farmers. Shock horror, because again, it is based on very much the size of the land, what size of land these people have access to, and it is not suitable for all farmers. Yes, there were problems with CAP, but I'll tell you what, it's a case of CAP is looking suddenly a whole lot better than the new government plan for this. But there you go. The nature schemes were, of course, never meant to replace the CAP payments exactly. Instead, they are now aimed at paying farmers to provide public goods. Now, at least over 100 farmers have signed up to a new campaign group called BI for Farmers to ask for a universal basic income for all farmers in Britain. The campaigners have said that farmers across the UK were basically kept afloat by EU subsidies, and now they risk going out of business. Analysis by the organic farming group Riverford has also found that over half of farmers surveyed said that they may go out of business due to the post-Brexit trade deals and uncertainty over the farming payment schemes and rising costs. I am not surprised by this at all. But again, could be a really good idea to sort of implement UBI to farmers and potentially see how this can sort of, affect them. It could be a really good sort of initial jumping off point for UBI to expand into other areas to sort of give to, other people. It's not necessarily a bad idea. So Joel Poulton from the BI for Farmers coordinator said that British farmers are now overworked, underpaid, and the Brexit process now presents an ideal opportunity to change this. A basic income for farmers would guarantee an adequate income, improving access to time off and reasonable working hours, and making entering a career in farming far more affordable for new entrants. Sustainable farming groups have also shared their support for a UBI for farmers that would enable them to experiment with nature-friendly farming methods where using fewer pesticides without sacrificing their income. Will White of the Sustainable Farming Campaign Coordinator at Sustain said this: universal basic income would be an important safety net for farm workers and small and newer entrant growers, providing financial security that liberates them from pursue agroecological practices without the looming pressure of financial survival. When paired with better funding for environmental and land management schemes, UBI has a potential to significantly bolster the agricultural sector's overall resilience. Looking into radical yet promising solutions like this is essential. We support a deeper exploration about how basic income policies could work in the UK and the UK context, and we are watching this campaign with interest. So, this is an example of where UBI could have big radical changes. And then you can, as it said there, as he said there, compare this with other, land management schemes and things for the environment. Now, now you are talking about a radical change in UK farming policy that really has not been considered, but it is an idea. It could be, and this could work very, very well. Um, I am actually becoming more and more of a proponent of this. But no, I am sort of very much convinced this would be very good for farmers. Um, but do we means test it? Do we say large farmers don't? Well, large farmers do sort of have access to it, but they have a lower access to the UBI, whereas small farmers have a bigger access to the UBI payments. That is something that should be looked at. Absolutely. This was a big problem with the cap payments, of where it was large farmers got a huge amount of those cap payments. Although, again, that was the UK government sort of doing that, not the EU, but there you go. And of course, small farmers not having as much access to the same level of cap funding. So there is, I think, a lot that can be done about this. And I think it is something that should be looked at quite seriously. So, Ruth West, a coordinator for the Oxford Real Farming Conference, said that concerned citizens, farmers are now in dire straits. Policymakers, all of who used to care about the fairer food system, should get on board to help move this practical, doable plan to its next phase. BI for Farmers presents a very good with a golden opportunity for sustainable farming future. It is an opportunity that we must not miss. So, I will agree. I think that giving farmers UBI, it's a very good start. It's a very, very good start, because once you say and show how well UBI can work in one sector, this is where you can say, well, if we roll UBI out more, if we expand this more, starts to sort of really sort of build more momentum to see where UBI can fit into sort of various different areas. I think that will be very, very good. So we'll see how this develops. We'll see how this goes. But I think that's a very good idea. I'd be interested to see what they think, like the advantages. Of course, they did mention some there about sort of the time for farmers having more sort of work-life balance, more financial stability. Of course, that will be good for farmers. I would love to see what else they would think could happen and what other policies they would like to see along with this, sort of how other different policies and environmental land management policies can help farmers more. Do we want to see more diversification in farmers so that they can have access to like other funds, to maybe if they're in, I don't know, the Peak District, maybe they can use some money to I don't know, set up a camping site or a glamping site, or like some sort of like mini sort of hotel cottages, etc. um there is an advantage to sort of looking at this, and I think it's really going to take being really brave of taking this step. um and this is something I would like to see Labour do, and the best thing we can do about this is ask Labour to do a independent report, or get a royal commission going. Get a royal commission going about farming, and have this be one of the things that a royal commission should look at. Can UBI help farmers, and how can it help farmers, and what other stuff could a government do to help British farming? I think that is a interesting direction to potentially go in. But it's having that, that oomph to do it. So I'm really glad to sort of see these campaigns when they sort of do start, and they do sort of go forward. So definitely we'll be looking more at sort of this campaign group. I'll be keeping an eye on them, see what other stuff they put out and things like that. I think it'd be very interesting to see what they do. But other than that, that's a very good idea. It's a very interesting idea, and again, an expansion potentially of, it starts here, and then of course it grows and grows until everyone gets UBI. So we'll see what happens. We'll see what happens. But this could very well be a interesting stepping stone to that future. So as always, thank you very much for watching, and of course, as always, we'll see you all next time.